What is going on, Misfits? Welcome back to another edition of Logician Tim Learns. With me, your host, Logician Tim. That's right. This is the show where you get to watch me go from a total gaming newbie to a more informed gaming newbie. Yeah, think about that. What's up, guys? It feels like it's been forever. It's just since, last Wednesday, but it seems like it's been like a really long weekend. And but we are back, and we're going to do the report card. We're wrapping up totally Savage Worlds. It's done. And we finish it off with a report card where I kind of give you my thoughts and just kind of some grades on what I think they did well and what I think they could have done a little bit better on. Then I wrap it up with a kind of like an overall score too. Take it all down there and kind of average it out. Let me bring up my report card here. So we look at a bunch of different categories. Now, Savage Worlds is a little bit different because it's a mechanics system that has kind of some world books attached. And that is a little bit different. So the report card is going to be a little bit different. Same format, but you'll see when I get there. So first, let's kind of bust this thing down and talk about it. Now, first topic we're going to look at is the character creation. And as you can see, they got a 7 out of 10. Now, character creation in Savage Worlds is fairly straightforward. There's 8 areas for you to set up your character. That is concept, race, hindrances, your attributes, skills, derived statistics, edges, and finally buy some gear. All right. So remember, your concept is kind of like the general idea for your character that you want to play. That kind of depends on what kind of setting that you're in. You kind of get together and figure out with your buddies. All right. Do we want to be investigators? We want to be like Wild West, like sheriffs, or what? So that kind of get that concept together. Secondly is your race, and so race is kind of like determines your general role playing type of information, along with any type of racial bonuses and abilities, as well as some weaknesses. Remember the elves when we went over them. They're very agile, so they get to start their agility with a D6 instead of a D4, and they can also see well in low light. Now, as a weakness, they have this all thumbs weakness, and this means that they have a dislike of mechanical things and shun most mechanical things and designs. And so I thought that was kind of cool that they have kind of the strengths and weaknesses of the races. And it was also kind of cool that you can make your own race too, and they have that format for you as well in there. This is where you would they have a whole bunch of like positive, not attributes, positive abilities, and kind of like negative racial abilities as well. And so you pick 2 from the positive racial abilities, and that way you can make your own race, and then you can pick another a positive racial ability as long as you have a negative racial ability that balances that out. So if you get something that gives you +2, then you need to have something that gives you a -2. And so I thought it was kind of cool the way that you can make up your own race. Like I think the example they used in the book was somebody made an angel race, and that just sounds pretty cool to me. The third thing that you're going to set up are your hindrances. And these are like your characters, your flaws, the drawbacks, the dark secrets of that character. Now, taking hindrances, of course, helps with your role play, but it also helps with, there's like a bug right here on my microphone. Wow, like crawling right next to my face. That's creepy. I thought I could see it right there in the corner of my eye. It's like right there. Oh my gosh, that's nuts. All right, hindrances. Let's get back to this. So like I said, when you pick some hindrances, that's going to help you with your role playing, but it can also help give you additional points that you can use to help your character in other areas during character creation. So when you take a major hindrance that's worth 2 points, you can choose to either raise an attribute, just 1 die type, or you can choose an additional edge. And so taking extra hindrances can actually help you make your character stronger in the beginning. It's kind of cool. Now, attributes, they have, all the attributes start at a D4, so that the D4 dice that you're going to be rolling with, unless they're otherwise specified by your race. Like I said earlier, the elves, they get a D6 in their agility, so of course they would start off with a D6. Now, after you have all your dice, or all your attributes starting off at D4, they give you 5 points for you to increase these attributes however you want. So you can upgrade from like a D4 to a D6, and that would just cost you 1 point. D4 to a D8, that's 2 steps. That's going to cost you 2 points. And it's so easy enough to do. Now, your skills, you're going to start with 5 core skills. All players start with 5 core skills, and these are athletics, common knowledge, notice, persuasion, and stealth, and they all start at the same D4 level. And then you get 12 points on top of this to raise your core skills, or you can buy new skills. Of course, you can do a little bit of both. So that's kind of cool, easy enough. Derived statistics, this is where you just kind of figure out what your parry, your size, your toughness stats all come from all the other stats that you kind of figured out. The edges, now the edges are the things that you're generally born with, or you kind of learn from training, or something they give you in the game. And these are things that kind of give you some type of advantage or some edge. Called edge. Hey, how about that? And you're not limited to gaining edges at character creation. You can also pick them up while adventuring as well. And each edge, just kind of note that each edge has a rank, kind of like a level requirement that you have to keep in mind. So pay attention to that when you're picking your edges. Then finally, the last step to character creation was your gear. And this is where you kind of get to peruse through the equipment section and buy any gear that you want for whatever you want. And you typically start off with $500 to spend, but if you take some hindrances, I think you could double that up to $1,000. So pretty cool stuff. So overall, the character creation, it seems fairly simple, and it's definitely not as complicated as some other RPGs that I've seen. Now, they did get dinged just a couple of points for not having much in the characters, the background area. I know most of the time players will create their own backgrounds for their characters, but I like to see this, some mechanics for it in the character creation. And, some RPGs even have mechanics for it. And I like to see that in there, like, Life Path, the CD Projekt Red with Cyberpunk Red 2020 had like the life path type stuff, and I would like to see that in a game as well thought out as Savage Worlds. So yeah, they ended up with a 7 out of 10 for character creation. Now we're going to move on to the next one. Look, I'm all fuzzy, like from that bug. All right, there we go. Let me see here. Restart my chat. My restream chat kind of messed up. Yeah, I bet my screen got all blurry when I was fighting that bug earlier. I did win. All right, customization. When it comes to character customization, there's a couple different things to look at. Now, first, a lot of your character is going to depend on like the setting that you use and what kind of archetypes are available in that setting. Now, in the little mini settings book, let me bring this up over here. What's up, Vaughn? Good to see you, my dude. The little mini settings book that they provide in the box set. They have like some settings in here, and they have like 3, 4, 5 archetypes that are available in each kind of little setting that they give us, right? So just kind of having these archetypes and just a handful of settings to go with it, it's going to kind of limit your choices a little bit here. But I'm sure that you can probably talk with the GM, and you can play pretty much whatever you want as long as the GM goes along with it, just like every other game. But after you pick your archetype, there is quite a bit of customization that you can do. Again, some of it is going to be limited to your setting, by default, kind of like your race. Your GM might not want you to be playing an elf in like the Old West, for example. Maybe they wouldn't mind, who knows. But yeah, you're able to still pick, your different skills, no matter kind of what archetype that you have. You're able to kind of customize your skills, your edges, like your arcane backgrounds. But the selection seems just a little bit limited to me. So like if 2 people pick the same archetype, for example, there are some things that will, they seem like they might overlap a little bit. There are some things that will set you apart, like those edges and those arcane backgrounds. You can kind of specialize within the archetype. So I guess there's some customization that's in there. It just feels sort of, I don't know, like canned to me. And that might be done on purpose just to kind of make it easier to switch settings quickly. But the character customization seems a little bit canned to me. Now let's move on to the next one. They got an 8 out of 10. Still really good score. Solid. Now progression. The progression system, I'll get it out. The progression system in Savage Worlds is kind of up to the GM to give you advancements so that you can level up. And the GM is going to tell you when you're granted these advancement advancement points or these advancements. Now, sometimes the GM will give them out when certain goals are met, or after like every session you might get an advancement, or just kind of whenever they feel it's time. And this could mean, even in the middle of the adventure or in the middle of the one shot if they feel like it. So either way, when you gain an advancement, you can use it to do certain things to increase your character's power. You can gain a new edge, increase a skill, increase an attribute. You can permanently remove one of your minor hindrances or reduce a major hindrance down to a minor. So you can do some pretty cool stuff with it. Your rank is a relative. So what I said earlier about edges have their own rank. Some of them have their own rank requirements. Your rank is relative to the number of advancements that you've made. So if you've only had, one advancement, then you're a novice. If you've had 8 advancements, then you're a veteran, and so on. So you kind of move up those ranks. And you, like I said, you have to be a certain rank, like seasoned or veteran, something like that, to choose certain edges, so pay attention to that. The progression system seems, honestly, just a little bit weak to me. It's really subjective. I know a lot of RPG advancements or leveling systems are a little bit subjective. It just feels like I'm going to have to remind my GM to give advancements, or like constantly ask, was that good enough for an advancement there? Does the system work? Yeah, it works. It just seems to be lacking to me a little bit, and maybe it would just play out a little bit better than the way it reads. I don't know. Let me know. Vaughn says, these settings are meant as examples, I think. There are others, or you can make your own. Yes, the examples in the box set, yeah, I agree. Those are definitely kind of getting started type examples for sure. And of course, you can always make your own for sure. And I kind of judge things based on what they give me, right? Because we're all like really creative people. We can make up incredibly awesome stuff, but I'm kind of judging what they give us to work with. And so that's what I'm going off of. All right. So progression, they got a 6 out of 10. Like I said, it just seems like it could be a little bit stronger for me. Now, mechanics. The ease of mechanics. Now, learning Savage Worlds mechanics is really easy. To make a skill or an attribute check, you roll the die that is assigned to it. So if you've got your agility is a D4, you roll a D4, and that's it. The result needs to be a 4 or higher, regardless of the die that you roll. If you're rolling a D12 or D8 or a D4, it has to be a 4 or higher. Okay, so 4 is the target number that you're looking to beat. So if you're looking to do a strength check, you look on your character sheet and you see what die is assigned to your strength. Let's say it's a D8. So we roll a D8 and we want the number to be 4 or higher. So we have pretty good odds of this, but if our strength attribute was a D4 instead of a D8, it would be a lot harder to roll a 4 with a D4 versus D8, right? Now, along with this, you will also get a wild die, what they call a wild die to roll. And this is an additional D6 that allows you to take kind of whichever's higher between the wild die and your normal attribute die. So let's say that we're rolling our D8 for strength and it comes up a 2, but our wild die roll comes up a 5. Well, we can, take the 5, which means that we succeed that check. So this kind of ups your odds of success quite a bit. Combat works very similar to attribute and skill checks, where you need to beat a target number to see if you're hit. Then you're going to roll for damage, and your damage is based upon your weapon. So ease, I think they got an 8 out of 10. I think it's fairly simple to learn, and it'd be fairly simple to teach people as well. Let's go on to the next section here. I'm getting blurry again. What's up with that? Come on, guys. Come on, camera. Work with me here. I'm doing Savage Worlds. What are you doing? Yeah. All right. So the originality / cool factor. So Savage Worlds has a few things that makes it, pretty darn cool. Some things that kind of stand out to me. So for one, it is a system that is designed to be used in any setting for the most part, and seems to encourage players and GMs to kind of switch up your settings and your worlds up a lot, and try out new worlds to play in. And there are also some kind of cool mechanics that are in here as well. Now, I like the idea of the aces and the raises, for example. And remember, aces are basically like when your dice explode by rolling the highest possible number on that die. So you get to keep the value and roll again and add that value to your previous roll, right? And a raise, so that's just kind of your basic exploding dice type mechanic. So I just like that that's in there. Now, a raise is a little bit different. This is when you roll 4 or higher over the target number. So for every 4 Yeah, for every 4 over the target number, that's considered 1 raise. So 8 would be 2 raises, 12 would be 3 raises, and so on. You can get, for each one of these raises, you get additional benefits in both role-playing and combat situations. So you get extra damage and stuff like that. Then there are the bennies, right? And these are the tokens you get for doing cool stuff in the game or role-playing your character well and stuff like that. And you can use these bennies. You can spend them to re-roll or recover from being shaken, regain your power points, and all types of cool stuff. And it seems the system is kind of heavily leaned on the player succeeding, with the wild dice, the bennies and all those types of things. And this is just another way to improve the character's odds of success. But I still think it's a pretty cool mechanic either way. I like the idea of bennies. I do. I also think that the wild cards and the extras thing is pretty cool. They differentiate between important, good guys and bad guys and your normal everyday NPC or wolf or whatever. Players and your named villains, your big bad guys, are considered wild cards. And everyone and basically everything else is considered extras. That random zombie over there, he's not a named villain, he's just an extra. Now, wild cards get some specific benefits, like being a lot harder to kill and some other things. And I really enjoyed the way that they laid this out for us, the difference between wild cards and extras, because I think people generally probably treat players and named villains a little bit differently anyway. And I think this just kind of spells it out and makes a mechanic for it. And I thought it was kind of cool. I thought it was clever. I also thought that the action cards to determine initiative was kind of a neat idea, although it might be a bit clunky in practice. I just really like the idea of the GM kind of handing out cards to the players every combat round, as I think it probably plays out better, like I said, than what most people think. That idea of throwing them out there just sounds like fun to me. It kind of gives everybody a second to kind of catch your breath and think about what the round is going to be like ahead, and it also adds kind of that random shot of getting the Joker card, which kind of adds you some bonuses and things like that. So I don't know, it just adds a little bit more random to it, gives you a second to breathe before that starts again. And I just like the idea of the GM passing out these action cards for initiative for some reason. I don't know why. It just sounds like it'd be cool. Might be a little bit clunky, but I think it would play out pretty well. Then you have the power section. I'm just talking about the originality cool stuff that's in here. The power section, which is basically how to handle things like magic across many different settings. And this can be really tricky to do. And I think they did a cool job with the trappings. And trappings are where you kind of use the same mechanic, but it's just kind of described in a different way. So when you're talking about a bolt, that could be an ice spear, or it could be a swarm of bees being flown at somebody or something like that. Those are all the same bolt mechanic, right? They all work exactly the same. We just describe them differently. We describe them as this, lava spear, this ice spear, whatever it may be, or this, stinging bee that flies at you. And so I kind of like the idea of these trappings. I feel like some people might feel that it kind of pulls back the curtain just a little bit too much and lets the players see, behind the scenes kind of stuff a little bit too much. And I've had a few comments about this on videos along the way, and I sort of agree, but I still think it's a great way to accomplish using magic type things in different settings without having to add, special mechanics, for every setting. So yeah, there's some really cool stuff in here that I think is very inventive. So they did get a 9 out of 10 for originality and cool factor. Now let me move on to depth. So this one was a hard one for me. The book includes all sorts of kind of advanced rules or situational combat rules and stuff like that for you to pick up as you learn the game more and more. And it's kind of technically considered depth. That's what I usually judge a book on, is just kind of what are the advanced rules? What are the second level? After I learn the basics, what is the second level and the third level, deep rules that I can kind of get into if I want to, right? And maybe my gripes have less to do with depth as they are about some of the more particular mechanics in the game. So I chose to talk about them here. I don't know, but let's just kind of get into it. Where things got a little bit weird for me in the mechanics was the shaken part, all right? When you roll for damage and it's higher than a target's toughness, they are shaken, meaning that they are rattled and can only take free actions on their turn. And at the start of their turn, they have to attempt to recover from being shaken by making a spirit roll as a free action. And this just seems kind of cumbersome to me. It seems that every time someone is hit, they're going to be shaken, right? At least that's how it reads to me. Now, to inflict a wound on somebody, you have to get a raise, meaning that you have to roll a 4 or higher above their toughness. One wound will kill an extra, like a wolf or a zombie, but you're not really dealing with like hit points here. You're not whittling away at your enemy at all. You're just basically rolling and making them shaken over and over again until you finally get lucky enough to score a big hit and get a raise, a 4 or higher over their toughness. And this could, in theory, go on forever, unless I'm missing something in here. I don't think I am. If I am, let me know down in the comments. So some of this cool stuff they did add in here. Well, I don't know. There was other stuff I wanted to kind of go over about that, but just let me know what you think about that shaken. Does that seem kind of weird to you that you're every time that you hit somebody, they're shaken, but they're not damaged at all, and you're not whittling away until you hit them with a raise, and then they're dead if it's an extra, right? It just seems like I don't know. It seems like there could be a little bit more crunch to that. I don't know. Now, some of the cool stuff they did adding depth is the power modifiers. This is kind of stuff that I liked. There's a list of power modifiers available in the book for you to choose from. Things like adding armor piercing or adding range to a power or extra power points. For exchange in extra power points. It adds a lot of depth and decision making and strategy into the game. So, yeah, they got dinged quite a bit for the shaking mechanics, but made most of it back with things like the power modifiers, the different situational combat rules, and other things they added in to keep you busy for a long time. So they did get a 7 out of 10. It was a lot lower if they didn't have like all those extra stuff. I think that shaking thing really bothers me. Vaughn tells me over here on Misfits Tabletop, or inflict shaken on a shaken character. The cooperative double hit is a major tactic. Okay, gotcha. So... and was there a mechanic about that, Vaughn, where if you're already shaken, do you take a wound? There you go. And so, yeah, Vaughn just answers that right as I spit that out. So there you go. And I'm wrong about things, all the time. So correct me, guys. And Vaughn just did it. Yes, you inflict a physical-based shaken on an already shaken character will wound without a raise. Okay, so there you go. So if they're already shaken, then they get another... shaken, then they're wounded, and so that would kill an extra right there. So thanks for that clarification, Vaughn. It still just seems a little wonky to me, though. Still seems a little wonky. It seemed like it could be just over in one round. You can kind of one-shot a dude, like a wolf or a zombie, and other ways, like if you're especially soloing, it would go on for a while. Just seems like it would. All right, let's move on. So mechanics, they got an 8 out of 10. So character overall, they got a 7 out of 10. Mechanics, 8 out of 10. Now narrative. All right. So this is my section in here. Now I spoke about this before on one of the streams, and Savage Worlds presents me with an issue that I haven't really had to face before. Normally I get an RPG and I start reading, right? And the world is what pulls me in. And is it a post-apocalyptic horror? Is it a I'll get it out. Is it a dragon-killing fantasy? Is it some type of really cool futuristic sci-fi? Whatever that world is, that is what gets my attention and gives me the motivation to learn the mechanics and read the book. Now, Savage Worlds didn't do that. They start from the mechanics and then say that you can play in pretty much whatever world that you want. And this is just really different for me. I just felt... it just feels really strange. Like I'm just so used to doing it the other way around. And I have more comments about this in the last section, and I'll kind of save them from that. Now, I left the score out of this one. The mini setting books they gave me is interesting, but they kind of feel like mini settings. They don't feel like actual worlds to me just by reading them. Of course, they are worlds, and by playing them, you would see that they are worlds, and it'd probably give you those feelings, but you just don't get it by reading them alone. And so if I were to score this narrative section by that alone, it would be a really bad score, and I don't think that is fair. So I didn't factor narrative into the final scores at all. So let's move on to value. So the content section, okay, the box set is really expensive for what you get. The core rulebook that I've been going over is not included in the box set for $150. The core rulebook is an additional $40. Okay, so because I went through both, I'll kind of be judging the section based on the $190 price tag for the stuff in the box and the core rulebook. The book itself is not a horrible value at $40, but to me, since it's undersized, it has a perceived value. Just kind of looking at the book on a shelf, flipping through it quickly, not knowing anything about Savage Worlds or what you're getting, it has a perceived value of about $25 to me, the way it is presented. Okay, and as I mentioned in my first impressions, like I said, the book is not full size. I like the fact that it fits in the box, right? It's because it's smaller, but I really need a full size book for that $40 to $50 price tag. Now, that being said, the writing is very well done, and there's a lot of content. Pretty much everything seems to be there for the most part. There's a bestiary, there's a decent equipment section, lots of skills, powers, and things like that. Some of the stuff in the book, kind of a couple qualms I had. Some of the stuff in the book makes you kind of refer further back in the, further sections in the book for definitions. And then sometimes you get there and it refers you to an even further section. And this type of thing just drives me absolutely nuts. If we're talking about size, then just give me all the information in the first mention, or a lot of it at least. And, if you need to send me forward, I guess it's okay at that point, but never, ever send me forward after you've already sent me forward. Okay. That drives me absolutely crazy. It's very annoying to do. So yeah, you can send me forward once, but when I get there, don't send me forward again to see more about size in this later chapter. It's not cool. One of my pet peeves. Now, the GM section was in the core rulebook was really wonky writing, to be honest. It wasn't like the rest of the book. It'd be giving tips on like how to run a horror game and, kind of presenting this issue for you. And then the solution would be like totally unrelated or very far off from the issue that they just raised with you. Like they were talking about the issues of running exploration type games being a lot of work for the GM. You remember me going over that? Because the GM has to come up with all the different locations and treasures, and the solution they gave was to template all of your NPCs to be the same stats. There were no tips or tricks on how to create locations or treasures, which is what I was expecting when you told me that the issue is creating locations and treasures. So, and virtually all the sections in the GM guide were that way. There was just kind of a huge disconnect between the issue that they presented and the solution that they gave. So I just think it needed a go back one more time and kind of, looking for this content continuity there. Of course, there was no adventure in the core rulebook. I usually kind of touch on that here, and I understand why there's not one. It's got tons of different types of settings and stuff like that, so there's no adventure going to be included. So I get it. All right. Content, they did get a 5 out of 10. And like I said, it was that value for what you're getting. So, I mean, the stuff was there, but, it's just very, very pricey. All right, let's get into artwork. All right. Oh, so I know that this is a very subjective topic, okay? But I'm here to tell you kind of my opinion on things, and that's what I'm going to do. The art's okay, and I mean just okay, all right? Now, flipping through the book, there's a couple of pieces that are pretty nice. Most of them just kind of feel disconnected to me. The style kind of reminds me of, the covers of old, like kind of a Goosebump type books for some reason, and I'm not really sure what it is. I'm not saying that it's bad art per se, just that it's disconnected. And that might be because of a lack of any type of lore to kind of hold it all together. The art on the playing cards is, honestly, it's just not good in my opinion. It feels like they really rushed like cutting out each piece in Photoshop, and you can kind of see the lines around the figures. And again, it just feels disconnected with what the kind of the image of the game is in your head. And it all feels very, Scooby-Doo-ish in a way. And that's just not what I have in my head when I think of Savage Worlds. And I guess that's where that kind of disconnect comes in for me. I had to ding them pretty hard here because of that. And, I know people can argue with me all day that, about quality of art and, it's subjective, and I'm okay with that. We can discuss that. Really what I'm judging it on is the ability to connect the content of the game with the art along with the game's brand, with those images that you have in your head when you think about playing Savage Worlds. And it just didn't happen for me. So they did get dinged pretty hard there for the art. All right, the last section is layout. They did a pretty good job on layout. I don't have a lot to add here. The sections are, very well marked. I can switch from chapter to chapter very quickly. I really love the summaries at the end of the chapters with the different powers and the edges all summarized for us. Very, very nice. Good job. So it's a great addition that they did that, and I hope other RPGs add this in the future. Or if you're listening, add those cool summaries at the end. So they did get a good score of layout, 8 out of 10. So that leaves us with our overall score. So basically we average all 3 of these scores up. We end up with a 7 out of 10. Now, normally, like I said earlier, I normally take all 4 scores from, one from each section, the underlined sections there, and I divide them out to kind of get the overall. This time, I did not include the narrative section in that tally. That's why I got a 7 out of 10. Now, if I were to include that narrative score, it would have been like a 5 or a 6 overall, and I just don't think that score represents this system at all. So some final thoughts here, I guess. Savage Worlds Adventure Edition, it seems to be, passionately adored by a lot of people, and I'm not here to take away from that. I'm not. It's a universal mechanics system, and it's designed to be used in just about any type of world that you want to play in. I think they did a good job of executing on that goal. Now, the lack of defined world kind of made it a turnoff to me in the beginning, right from the get-go. And I think because of this, it's led me to kind of like the suspicion or conclusion or whatever you want to call it, that this mechanic system is really designed and targeted towards people that have played a lot of RPGs before. Kind of basically they're assuming that you've played D&D or some other type of game for a long time, and you kind of know the issues with playing RPGs. And they come out with this new kind of universal system that allows you to play kind of anywhere in any world, and people just seem to absolutely love it. And I'm cool with that. I think a lot of my issues are kind of stemmed around the fact that I'm not the target market for this system. It's not targeted for me, and I'm not someone that's played RPGs my whole life. There's no world sitting there, motivating me to learn all the mechanics or want to know more. And honestly, if I didn't know the popularity of this game, if I just saw it sitting on a shelf somewhere, I would have never picked it up on my own. There's just very, very little there to entice someone that has never heard of it to pick it up and put in the effort that it takes to learn the game and persuade their friends to play this game, in my opinion. Now, that being said, if you do have a lot of experience with RPGs, you will probably enjoy this system. I think it solves a lot of the issues in playability, and it gives you the tools to create, whatever world that you want and have the mechanics right there to support you. So some of you I know have been playing Savage Worlds for a long time, and you're absolutely in love with it, and I support that. I really do. And if you're somebody that loves Savage Worlds, should you go out and buy the Adventure Edition, box set? I mean, I kind of have to leave that up to you. The value of what you get in the box is the box set is a big turnoff for me. But there are some people that are completionists, and I understand if you absolutely need to get everything for a game to feel like you have it all, absolutely go ahead. And overall, I think that's last kind of thing here. I think the game accomplishes what it set out to do. Don't let the scores, kind of tell you it's a bad game, because it's definitely not. It's just not where I would choose to spend my money or my time at this point in my RPG experience at this price point. That makes sense. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is my final report card for Savage Worlds Adventure Edition. Leave me your comments down below. Do you think, what do you think I was kind of too tough on it? Did I miss some things? Was I too easy on it some other places? Let me know down in the comments. All right. If you don't mind, go ahead and hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button down there. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. Leave me a comment. Let me know what I messed up. I always mess stuff up. I appreciate you guys helping me out. Share the stream. A lot of people have been sharing the stream on like forums and Facebook and Twitter, all over the place. I really do appreciate that. I love seeing new faces around here. My Patreon is now up. The link is down in the description. If you like this type of content, if you would please consider just help me out financially. That'd help out a lot. Every little dollar counts. So just a couple dollars here and there, it all makes a big difference. So, all right, thank you all so much for watching. I will see you all on the next time. I don't know what's next. It'll be a surprise. All right, we got another one coming up here soon. All right, see you guys next time. Bye.